Welcome back. Today we are deep diving into the Caribbean past. My name is Peyton.
And I'm James. Today's episode is going to be titled History, Identity, and Resistance, and we're going to be diving into the Caribbean, a bit about its past, what its culture is like, and how resistance shaped the identity of the region.
And joining us is our friend Logan. He's a student here at Gettysburg who grew up in the Caribbean. He's not a historian. He's just someone who's lived through the culture and can share a personal insight when it makes sense.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. I'm excited to jump in. I'm definitely not an expert, but I know what home feels like, and home for me is Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean.
So I guess let's start with the main question we're talking about. So, with the Caribbean as a whole, how is like the conversation about history, identity, and resistance? Like, why are we talking about that right now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people vacation there, but don't really realize the Caribbean is basically a living history book. Colonization, slavery, revolutions, migration, cultural blending. I mean, all of it.
So Logan, growing up, did you feel that the history was kind of like in the air? Like, was it all around you, or was it something that you just learned in school?
Honestly, it's everywhere. You hear it in the music, you hear it in how people talk, the food, the slang, the way people carry about themselves. We learn about colonization in school, but you kind of feel the legacy of it in everyday life. Like, for example, my grandparents still talk about how their grandparents would witness people working on plantations for next to no money,
Right.
and that's not ancient history. That's like only a few generations ago.
Yeah. Right, and that's why it matters, really. I mean, the Caribbean experienced some of the harshest form of oppression, slavery, indentureship, economic exploitation, and somehow produced these incredibly vibrant cultures.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, of course, like a one-time thing that just it happened once in the past and it's gone. It was a real constant throughout the entire history of the Caribbean. I feel like with like rebellion, having your culture shaped and surviving through it, and the preservation of your history, like all those events in the past shaped what the Caribbean is today.
Yeah, I mean, like even the way we celebrate Carnival, it started as like a resistance. Enslaved people weren't allowed to join the Europeans' masquerade balls, so our people decided to make their own version. So it's basically like a rebellion covered in glitter, I guess.
Let's switch subjects. Let's talk identity. Caribbean identity is complicated because it comes with African, indigenous, European, and Asian influences all mixed together.
Yeah, exactly. You have like Afro-Caribbean culture, Indo-Caribbean culture, Chinese Caribbean communities, indigenous roots, and these identities aren't being replaced by one another. They overlap and they mix and mingle, and it creates a really unique experience, really.
Right. I mean, so Logan, when you came to Gettysburg, did you feel like your identity suddenly became a Caribbean student, even if that wasn't how you thought it was? You thought of yourself back at home.
Yeah, I think back home, everyone's Caribbean, so you don't really think about it too much. When I got on campus, it was like, oh, you talk different. Your music is different. Some people would say you sound like you're from South Africa. And I'm like, no, I'm from Trinidad, from the Caribbean. People would ask me about beaches, like I sleep on them every night. Someone asked if we walked around barefoot, if we had running water.
Right.
So it kind of forces you to think about who you are and where you come from.
Wow. That's something a lot of immigrants or first-gen students relate to. Like the moment your identity becomes a topic instead of something that you've lived.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, historically, Caribbean identity was mainly formed as a reaction to oppression, where slavery kind of tried to erase African identity so people create new ones, and that's how these new cultures came forth. And with colonization trying to crush local languages, it made new languages instead. So it's pretty interesting to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, exactly. And these various languages used to be looked down on, right? And now they're celebrated around the world. Music too, like dancehall, soca, reggae, the whole lot, all came from people refusing to be silenced during
Right.
colonization. You know,
Yeah. I guess we could lighten up the mood a little bit with a little Caribbean MythBusters.
all right.
So, Logan, we're gonna do a little special segment. It's just true or false, or it's complicated. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so I guess myth number one: everyone in the Caribbean speaks English.
No, that's false. A lot of islands have their own languages. Like, for example, Trinidad speaks English, the Dominican Republic speaks Spanish, Martinique speaks French. So that is definitely false.
Number two, everyone goes around saying "bomboclat."
No, that is definitely false. It's funny you say that. I get that all the time, where people would just say, "Oh, you're from the Caribbean. You must say bomboclat," and I say, "No, that's just Jamaica."
Right.
So people like to mistake the Caribbean for a bunch of islands that are, all the same, but it's not true. Every island has their own unique thing to them.
Right.
Myth number three, I suppose: the Caribbean is just full of beaches and resorts.
Yeah, that's false for sure. A lot of it is about beaches and resorts because obviously the islands are beautiful and they're very tourism based. But there's also other things, like there's a lot of poverty, political issues, and real communities beyond postcards.
And myth number four, I think this is our last one of the segment here. Caribbean culture is the same across all islands.
Huge false. I think it relates to the one with Bomboclat, where Jamaica is not Trinidad, Haiti
Right.
is not Barbados. Every island has its own vibe, food, slang, and
Yeah.
history.
Well, we'll move on then. I think let's kind of bring the conversation to a close, bring it full circle. How does the history of resistance show up today in the Caribbean and the U.S.?
I mean, you just look right at the music. It's right there. A lot of reggae artists, struggled out of that political struggle. Songs came out of that. And then you look at migration. People leave islands because of economic inequality, rooted in the plantation system.
Yeah, I mean, even with the protests happening today about workers' rights and corruption in the government and environmental damage, it's all kind of tied to the colonial structures in a way.
Right. I mean, Logan, have you noticed anything at Gettysburg that reminds you of these dynamics?
Honestly, yeah. When discussions about race or identity happen here, I kind of notice like parallels. Students from marginalized backgrounds often feel like they have to kind of prove their identity or explain their culture,
Right.
which I think is a form of resistance too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like resisting the pressure to shrink yourself.
Right. Exactly. And that's why we're all here talking about this. The Caribbean isn't just a distant story; it's connected to real life right now.
Yeah.
Well, this was an amazing conversation, just learning about like your experience, the culture, all the different aspects of the Caribbean. It gives us really a powerful example of how people transform due to oppression in their culture and really having pride in their community.
Right. Absolutely. And you don't have to be a scholar to be a part of the story. Sometimes the best insight comes from lived experiences. Logan, thanks for sharing yours with us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. This was pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, I'll see you next time.